We're going to do a lesson today on rounding. I have discovered that through the years, students can do the problems that I ask them to do, and then if the directions say to round to the nearest tenth or a particular place, sometimes they mess that up, and I hate that they did all the hard work, but they didn't write the answer correctly because they did not round correctly. So I always make sure at the beginning of the year that I review this. I have just a few of the places that you would have to round to listed there. So notice that everything is based upon where the decimal point is. It is kind of the cutoff between the whole places and the decimal places. So just to the left of the decimal is the ones place, or if they tell you to round to the nearest whole number, that's what they mean. They don't want any decimal places in the answer. That's a common one that you have to round to. The most common one that you have to round to, though, they always say the tenths place. The tenths place is just one decimal place to the right of the decimal. Occasionally, it might say in the directions to round to the nearest hundredths, or especially if you're doing a problem with money, you would be rounding to the nearest hundredths. Okay, the next places to the right in the decimals would be the thousandths, the 10,000ths, and the 100,000ths. I can't imagine any of the problems that we would do this year in pre-algebra that you would round to one of those places, but it is good to know the names of those and review that. Not very often, but maybe once in a while you might have to round to the nearest tens. But again, that's not as often. And if that happens, that just means that we want no decimals in the answer, and the ones place would be a 0. All right, the general rule with rounding is you're asked to round to a particular place. You check out that number, but more importantly, you check out the place directly to its right. That is the determining factor. The place directly to the right. If that digit directly to the right is a 0 through 4, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that number in the place you're rounding to would stay the same. If the place you have to look to is a 5 through 9, then that means you take your number up 1 and drop everything past it. All right, the very first example right here, 14.79. The place that we're rounding to is the 7. It's underlined. That means I've got an arrow showing you that you look at the 9. Well, the 9 says to go up. That's why over here the answer would be 14.8. You don't write anything in that where the 9 was. I've had kids in the past that they go to the trouble of rounding it to 14.8 and then they still write a 0 after it. Well, the point of rounding is that you don't write as many digits. Okay, so whatever place you're rounding to, that's the last place that you put a number in. All right? Yes?
Would that be counted wrong?
If you put a 0 there, I probably wouldn't count it wrong. It's just really extra work that's unnecessary. Okay, now in one of these problems here, it's going to be really important where you put a 0 and not put a 0. Then it will be wrong, but I'll tell you about that when we get there. Okay. All right. The next example, 7.483. So 7 and 483 thousandths. The place that we want to round to was the hundredths place. There's an 8 there. You have to look at the 3, decide what it tells you to do, and then determine what the rounded value would be. Who would like to tell me what this is? Braxton.
It would be 7.48 because you can't take it up because 3 is under 5.
Correct. 7.48. 3 is in that category where it stays the same, and then you don't write any number past the 8. Good job. 271.899. We're rounding to the hundredths, meaning that we look at this guy over here. This one's a little trickier. Okay. Stephen, what do you think?
2 71.9.
Okay, now I got to tell you this. It's telling us to round to that spot right there. That means there has to be a digit in that spot. So what digit would it be, Stephen?
0.
Yes. In that case, there has to be a 0. In that case, there has to be a 0. I wouldn't write 2 zeros, but that 0 has to be there, and if you leave that 0 off, it would be marked wrong because it's telling you to round to the nearest hundredths. Okay, next, 3.71254. Sienna?
3.71.
3.71. Rounding to the hundredths, you have to look at the 2. It says say the same. You don't write any more digits. Okay, the next one is very tricky. 32.96. Trayton, what are you thinking?
33.0.
33.0 is exactly right. Now, this is the one I want to talk about a little bit extra because this is the one kids miss more than any other kind of rounding. It is telling us to round to the nearest tenth. That means if you have to round at all, there has got to be a number in the tenths place. It just so happens you have to look at the 6. The 6 says go up. Well, there's a 9 there. To take the 9 up, you take it to 10, making the 32 become 33. You must put a 0 in that tenths place. If you just answer 33, you would get that one definitely marked wrong. Now, do I think that 33 and 33.0 are kind of the same value? Yes. But if you just answer 33 in a problem that says round to the nearest tenth if necessary, and you just put 33, you're saying, nope, I didn't have to round at all. It came out exactly to 33. And that would not be true in this case. So anytime you have to round and it tells you to round to a particular place, there's got to be a number in that place, even if it's 0. Okay? Does that make sense to you? This is the one you got to be the most careful of. That one right there. All right, is there anybody still writing red? All right, we're going to move on to these examples down here. I've got 5 more. We'll see how we do on these. So 5 new people, let's say. 27.4485 looks like we're rounding to the nearest tenth. Layla, what do you think?
27.4.
Yep, 27.4, and you'd be done. Don't write any more digits. 299.67, and it looks like we're rounding to the nearest whole number. Tori, what do you think?
299.7.
That would not be it. Here's the place we're rounding to. You have to see what the 6 says. It says go up, so it's saying to take that up. So Tori, I'm going to let you try again. The 6 is saying take the 9 up. So if you take the 9 up, what's it go to?
300.0.
Which place is it trying to tell you to round to? Which place is it telling you to round to? The ones. So that's the last place that has to have anything. Do I even need to put a decimal in there then?
No.
No. That one is just 300 because the ones place is where we're rounding to. That's the last place that you should have a number. All right, 12.0705.
Did you skip?
Is it Shane?
No.
Shane.
It would be 10. Oh, whoops, I did the wrong one. It would be 12.071.
12.071 is exactly right. Okay, the next one, another tricky one. 9.8993. Dakota, what are you thinking?
Just 10.
You are exactly right. Just 10. It says round to the nearest whole number. You look at the right, the 8. It says go up. Well, you got to take 9 to 10, and then you write nothing to the right of it. All right, 12.952. Haley, what do you think?
13.0.
Yes, 13.0. The 9 or the tens place is where we're rounding to, so there's got to be something there. The 5 says go up. The 9 has to go to a 10. So, yeah, 13.0. If you did not put the 0 on that one, you would be wrong. Are there any questions?